Hello and welcome in today's episode of The Untold. I'm your host Abdullah Al-Hindiani and I'm with Marzouk Said.
Hello, Abdullah. Hello, our dear viewers. Everyone in this show has a story, but not every story was told. But I think our guest today, he been to 195 countries.
Yeah.
So he has more than one story to share.
Yeah, mashallah, as someone who loves traveling myself, I'm really curious and interesting and, very, very intrigued to talk to him. Of course, we're talking about AlShuaib, who has been to all countries, who has been to both poles. And, we are so excited to see what he has to offer us and share with us.
Exactly. The audience have curious questions. I am curious as well.
Yeah.
I would like to know even more. And I heard he loved the adrenaline rush adventures.
Yeah, basically, and if you check his social media accounts, you're gonna find him all over the world, through all kind of experiences and journeys. It's so exciting.
Definitely. I cannot wait to start the episode, so stay tuned. Welcome back, the Untolders, to our favorite show. And today we have a special guest. Some of you have been to one country, two countries, or maybe 10 countries, but he's been to more, all the countries. AlShuaib, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for hosting me in your podcast. And yeah, that's true. I've been to more than 195 countries, which is almost all countries in the world.
I have questions, the viewers have questions. It's gonna be an interesting episode, I definitely believe.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun episode. And I do have to admit that I do know you before because I follow a lot of travelers. And I was really, because I remember the reel that you did where you were in Kuwait and then you are suddenly transported to North Korea. Is the one that I really got over, and I was like, okay, that's really interesting. So, having you today here is an amazing, experience. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sure. So let's start from the beginning. When did you love travel, or did you know about traveling and that's something you would like to pursue?
Traveling has always been there in the family. We usually travel every year.
Yeah.
So ever since I was young, I would travel with my family. But then the actual how I wanted to visit every country was a few years ago, probably around 2017. That's when I started planning and making that as a goal, more of just a dream. I wanted to actually travel to every country and reach both the North and the South poles. So then I started planning and putting a budget for everything and checking out the possibilities of actually visiting every country, especially some countries are not touristic or very politically enclosed or hard to get to. So I needed to do research to know if it's possible or not.
Yeah. But what, jump-started that whole idea? What changed your idea about traveling from this is something I do with my family to this is something I want to do and explore?
After I finished high school, so then that's when the freedom came. So I was able to support myself financially, and I wanted to travel, but then it was hard to coordinate with family members or friends to travel on random trips or different times of the year. So that was kind of an obstacle for me. Then I started volunteering abroad. That pushed my limit outside of my comfort zone to try to travel solo. So by just doing one trip, then I realized it's possible to travel by myself solo. Yeah. So then as the years go by and as I saved more money, I started doing solo trips by myself, and then that's what built on to the ultimate goal.
More often start to travel solo?
Yeah.
I did that a couple of times, maybe to 5 or 7 countries, traveling solo just by myself. And the most usual question that I get is, how do you travel solo? How do you enjoy? You don't get bored? So I take that question to you.
Actually, traveling solo has a lot of benefits. One of them is the more flexibility and freedom, because you don't need to ask opinions of your friends. And sometimes when you're traveling with people, they will be like, oh yeah, whatever you want, whatever you guys want. But then in reality, they probably won't agree with a lot of things you want to do.
There's a lot of pressure on you to plan for everything.
So but when you're doing by yourself, Usually I have a plan to do something today, but like halfway through I change my plan and do
Yeah.
something else, or probably meet someone along the way and then the whole itinerary changes. And that happened a few times. I would go to one country and then meet other travelers or other solo travelers, and then we started planning the trip through that country together because we share similar itineraries but like different dates or different ways of traveling. So then we joined together because it would be more easier, more flexible, more
Fun,
more fun,
engaging.
yeah, engaging than
Yeah.
just to go by yourself. So traveling solo, people when they hear solo, they think you're going to be by yourself all alone, but that actually is not true if you are open and flexible to meet other people and to become sociable. And being traveling solo builds on being a more sociable person because it pushes you to talk to people along the way. But when you're traveling with friends or family, you would be more enclosed to just talk with the people who are you are traveling with, and this would take away opportunities of meeting other people from around the world.
And learn from different cultures, obviously.
Exactly.
And also to go back to what Marzouk said about traveling solo, like for me personally, while nowhere near as your number, I have been to more than 20 countries by myself. And I think that after a while, you get to enjoy your own company, right? You know,
Exactly.
until the time that you enjoy the presence of yourself and be fully comfortable being solo, you're going to know yourself that more.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so as I said, like there's a lot of benefits of traveling solo. You just need to start to embrace the idea
Yeah.
and be comfortable in yourself, to trust yourself that you're able to travel by yourself.
I think
solo.
it's just the first couple of times you're all by yourself and you're thinking, oh, are all these people looking at me weirdly? And then you just realize, no, everyone's
Yeah.
in their own world. And then you get to explore the country by yourself, however you want it. There's no pressure to go somewhere you don't want to or eat something you don't want to.
You will never be judged because wherever you're gonna go, you're gonna always find someone who's traveling
Yeah.
by themselves solo. And actually, like solo people, if you meet another person who's solo, you are more likely to engage with that person because you're both in the same boat.
Yeah.
Definitely. And for some people, when they travel, their idea is like to relax, to enjoy the moment. And for some of them, they're looking for adventure. The rest, they may be looking for some cultural experience. For you, what kind of style? You
My
prefer?
my style, I always say this, that my priority when I'm traveling to any destination is to look for something adventurous because I'm a more adventurous side.
Yeah.
But if I cannot find that aspect, I would go to the cultural aspect of visiting a country to learn more about the culture, be engaged in cultural activities. And if it's a country like has repetitive cultural aspects that I've already seen or experienced before, or if they lack the cultural touristic part to it, then I would go to the typical historical sites in that country. But my priority is adventure.
Like regarding adventure, are you also like someone who's looking for adrenaline rush?
Yes, that's the adventure I'm looking for. Yes.
Same here.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the adventure itself. Do you remember the first trip that you went for it, or whenever you decided to go for all the countries? What was the first country you've been to?
Oh yeah, so when I started the actual counting every country as a solo traveler, the first country was Eritrea.
Eritrea.
That's in the Horn of Africa next to Djibouti
Ethiopia.
and Ethiopia. Yeah. So that was the first country I visited.
Was there a specific reason you chose that one?
That's how it happened.
Oh, okay.
Just like, out of random?
Because I was I needed to go to Egypt to get a lot of visas for African countries from
Yeah.
Egypt. So, and Eritrea, given the situation in Eritrea, it's not easy to find flights from anywhere in the world
Yeah.
to visit Eritrea. So, to work with my itinerary, it was best to fly from Egypt directly to Eritrea. They had a direct flight at
Yeah.
that time. So I would start in Eritrea and then I would go from there to Djibouti and Ethiopia, which is within
Oh, okay.
reach. And then I would have this crossed off. So I won't worry about coming back, how I'm
Yeah.
going to get back to Eritrea.
Okay, and how did it take you like to complete all 195 countries?
The plan technically should have been within 5 years, but because North Korea was closed until recently, they opened for a special event. So it took me 5 years and 4 months.
And now,
Or
like
actually
North
3
Korea,
months and a few days.
I know North Korea could be very challenging. So what was like the procedure to get there?
Actually, it's not challenging. It's just because
Really,
they're
it's
they're
not.
they're closed
Okay.
for since COVID happened. They were closed for tourism. A few years ago, they opened for Chinese and Russian tourism or like delegation due to their tight bond politically. And they've been trying to open up for tourism for the rest of the world for a few years now. They opened in February, but then they closed because one of their guides was diagnosed with COVID due
Oh.
to some of the tourists that came. So they closed the northern part, which was open for tourism. But then they were planning the event in April for the annual marathon. So what they do is they have an annual marathon, and it's like for anyone who runs a marathon, Pyongyang marathon should be like on their top list because it's a very special event and it's a unique, different than any other marathon they would run. So a lot of people want to usually go there every year, and they have been closed since also COVID, and this is the first time they open back the event even for local runners. So when they announced it, it did not affect the closure in the northern part. So they were still going on with the event of the marathon in Pyongyang, which is the capital city. So then I just registered there, and with 200 other participants from outside of Russia and China. We were there for the marathon, and then that's it. Like now they're closed again.
Because I also saw that they gave you a tourist advisor or something that spoke Arabic.
Yes.
Someone that was speaking Arabic with you from North Korea.
This was by coincidence.
Oh.
So this guy, he works in the Ministry of Sports, which is the one organizing the marathon. And we are divided into groups. So each group had to have an representative from the ministry, since it's a ministry event. So he knew that I was one of the people in his group was from Kuwait, and his friend, his close friend, works in with the ambassador here in Kuwait. So he came to me and he told me that he speaks Arabic, and he actually does not speak English. So he was happy that someone else speaks Arabic. So he's technically not my guide. He was not supposed to be my guide, but since the company that's organizing the trip saw that he speaks Arabic with me very well, and I'm very active and I'm always off the group, so they told him to be with me the whole time. If anything I need, he would be there for me.
Yeah.
I mean, that's become like a tour guide somehow.
Yeah, I made him a tour guide.
So that was great because you can see him talking Arabic, and it's really amazing to watch a country so far away appreciating the language itself.
Sure.
But on that note, we're going to take a quick break and we'll come back to continue this conversation.
And we are back, and we're still continuing with our interesting guest here, AlShuaib, who traveled to all the countries. I know one of the years, like 2020, it was kind of different because of the pandemic. I remember in that time I was studying abroad in the United States, and I know a lot of people that were in different countries. And that year, where you were?
I was in Africa in general. That was the beginning of my trip. I started in Africa in 2020. 1 month into my trips, that's when I started hearing about the COVID. But at that time, it was still in China, so there was no big worry about it. So I continued traveling, but then it quickly reached Kuwait. Like Kuwait is considered one of the first
applies restrictions.
Yeah, to start applying restrictions and COVID entering Kuwait. So I heard like in the news, especially like with my parents, I'm keeping up with WhatsApp, that Kuwait is gonna they're giving a period for people to come back before they close the borders.
Yeah.
So at that time, I was still not taking the matter seriously because people saying they're comparing it to SARS. It's going to be contained within quickly. So I continued with pursuing my itinerary. In Africa, and there was no news anything about it in Africa. So then Kuwait closed their borders, and I was still in Africa. Everything was still open until beginning of March, or it's the beginning of March. That's when I was Africa started closing. They didn't have any cases, but they started closing.
Yeah.
They start taking it seriously.
Yeah, taking it seriously and closing. So especially like I even had like one incident in Sierra Leone.
Sierra Leone?
Yes, that's different than the other incident. In Sierra Leone, when I arrived, the flight was coming from Ethiopia, and it had transit somewhere in Africa. Then it went to Sierra Leone. So when we did that, when they had the transit, there was some people who came out of the flight. They started writing in Facebook that there is an Asian person on the flight coughing.
Oh.
So by the time our flight arrived to Sierra Leone, then because they on Facebook they wrote the number of the flight. So
Yeah.
Sierra Leone figured out that that's the flight coming to them. So when we arrived, they let us deplane, but they didn't let us enter the airport. We were like outside in that area zone, which is between the plane and the airport. They said the situation is this is what happened. We are not allowed. The government is shutting down the airport, and we're not going to allow you to enter. You have the only option you have is to go to
Other country?
No, to go to quarantine in Sierra Leone for 2 weeks. And I was like, no way, I'm not going to quarantine for 2 weeks
That's
in
the
Sierra
whole
Leone.
itinerary.
Yeah, I'm only here for 3-4 days, you know, and I have other itineraries and other things. So there was like a argument, people were like disagreeing. Then they took us to this one quarantine place, which was like very horrible. It's not even safe to stay outside of COVID, you know. So then they told us, like, if you have a flight, you can book a flight would like to fly within the next 24 hours, 48 hours, you can do that. Because a lot of us were like actually people who are local, but some of us are not local. So I immediately acted upon that, and I booked the earliest next flight to my next destination. And when I reached the airport, I was like kind of like the last person to enter the airport before they closed the airport for good. So no one is going to enter. So they acted upon closing the airport because of that flight. So they knew like, oh, there is a risk. So then they made the decision to close the airport. So I went into the airport and I got on my flight. And then that's when I was like flying from one country to the other country, because every time I go to another country, I hear the news or ask
like
the
they were
people,
racing COVID.
I people will tell me like, what are you gonna do? Because the airport is gonna close in the next day or by the end of the weekend. And I'm like, oh my god! So I need to like find my other next stop, you know. And my plan was to continue going up west of Africa until I reach Morocco. But then when I got to Senegal, there was no flights because every flight was fully booked. And I met one person in Senegal. He was actually like sleeping in the airport just to wait for any flight to have a vacancy.
Yeah.
And then when he doesn't find anything, he comes back to the accommodation. So the airport closed, and when the airport closed, and people were telling me like even inside Dakar, they're gonna have the restriction to hours, so there's no tourism, nothing. So then that's when I was okay. At least there is an embassy of Kuwait, a representative in Dakar. So I called them, and they immediately rushed to help me and find me a proper place to stay and like full accommodation. Until they get further instructions from the government in Kuwait. And that took like at least 40 days. And then they got the news that they're going to send a plane even for me.
For evacuation.
Yeah, I was the only Kuwaiti in Senegal. At first, we were like me and the people from the embassy representatives, we thought like something else is going to happen. Like probably they would find the private, a local plane that's flying to Morocco, and they will take me there and meet everyone there. But they sent the whole plane.
They're gonna take you back to Kuwait?
Yeah, and go back to Kuwait.
Isn't that crazy? Like all the situation in Sierra Leone started just by Facebook status.
Yes.
So because I'd imagine, you know, when they were looking at citizens and Kuwaitis outside, there was one red dot in Senegal blinking, and everyone's like, "Wait, who's that?" And then
Why is that? Huh?
Yeah, and then they had to bring him back.
Yeah.
So that was the end of your itinerary during COVID?
Yeah, during COVID. So then we came here. We were like, where the airport was closed for a while. We went through the restrictions and all that. And then tourism started back in 2021. So I went back to traveling in 2021.
So, what country did you choose between 2021, and how did you plan the rest of the journey then?
You mean after COVID?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I started in Europe and then I went to Latin America or South America.
Oh,
So that was my first country was Venezuela.
Venezuela.
Yeah, so I went to Venezuela. And then I started traveling in South America. I did a few countries and then I went to the South Pole and then did more countries in South America and then things started to ease up. So travel became easier after that.
And after like exploring all the countries, what have you learned about yourself?
I
know it's very deep.
It's not like what I learned about myself. It's more about what I developed of myself. So I've been through situations, nerve-wracking situations that you need to start learn to control yourself. Sometimes if you take a breath and relax a little bit, focus,
yeah.
you start to think better and make better decisions. So I faced that when I was in Papua New Guinea. I had an itinerary and I had flights booked and specific dates. One flight got cancelled because it wasn't cancelled. It was they changed the plane from a big plane to a small plane because the runway was under renovations. So the big plane cannot land in. So they had to reschedule me for a different flight. And I was so I went to the office. I was, what do I do? I have a full itinerary. If I miss this flight, I'm going to miss everything else. So I sat there for 2-3 hours with the office to find a solution. I found my own solution. They were just there telling me, yes, you can do this, you cannot do that. Because they don't know what I want to do. They don't know where I want to go. All they care is they need to get me to that, my final destination. Yeah. But for me, when I look at the itinerary they give me, if I follow that itinerary, I'm going to miss a lot of things. So I need to find a different alternative. So that moment helped me when I just took a breath, focused, and started looking at all the options. And I pieced up the options together and I gave them, this is the itinerary that I want yeah.
And speaking of itineraries, are you one of those travelers who plan everything ahead, or you're one of those, because I see a lot of travelers jump from country and then they see what's around them, they go one after the other? Are you somewhere in the middle?
Before COVID, I was the person who would plan everything ahead.
Yeah.
But after COVID, I'll just go with the flow because I planned a lot of things before COVID. Everything got cancelled because of COVID,
Yeah.
So then I realized it's pointless to plan ahead. And book flights early. They tell you that the travel hacks, book a flight early, do everything early. Yeah, but then what happens if you need to change or cancel? Or for example, if I go to a place and I meet someone and I want to change my itinerary to fit with their itinerary. So that's So what one outtake I took from COVID is just to go with the flow. Plan at least just 1 week ahead. Don't plan 3 months ahead.
I think that's the fun of traveling, is that, like you said, have a few days, 1 week ahead, but don't look way far into the future.
Yeah, and be flexible. I remember going to Kyrgyzstan, and I fell in love with the country and the adventures there. So I decided to stay even more. So flexibility instead of just having a firm schedule would be really better.
Exactly.
Option.
Some countries I go to, I extend my stay. Some other countries I cut my stay short and I just move on to the next one.
Yeah.
So that's why sometimes I don't like when some countries or some embassies, they require you to have a flight ticket for your next destination or your return ticket. So I'm but I don't know. Maybe I don't want to fly at this date. Maybe I want to extend. Maybe I want to fly early. Maybe I want to cross borders. I don't want to go by a plane.
Yeah.
So it's kind of puts you on restrictions when they ask these specific requirements.
Exactly. And this way of having different options could actually affect the budget. So for those who are asking, is traveling the world expensive or cheap?
It depends on your expenses. So if you want to travel to every country and you're not a billionaire, then you need to travel on a budget and have priorities. So stay away from expensive restaurants or expensive hotels or even expensive style of traveling. For example, always having a private taxi or a private driver with a driver with a translator or someone who speaks your language. You need to start learning to adapt to your surrounding. You need to start using Google Translate or any translating app, or maybe learn a few things from few words from the locals. You need to start adapting to staying into 3-star hotels, let's say,
And it depends.
using local transportation.
It depends on how you do your research. Because one time I went backpacking with my friend, and then we went to Switzerland for Interlaken, and I managed to get us a place that's for 3 KD for one night.
You did that? In
Yeah.
Switzerland? Okay.
Yeah, but it was a place where you sleep. You just rent the bed.
Yeah.
And inside the room there are 4 other people with you.
Yeah, but that's in Switzerland.
Yeah,
For 3
it's,
kid,
yeah,
okay,
it's
that's
someone
good.
for 3 KD, and you just
That's
gotta
it,
you
cheap.
just gotta research better.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say it's because we don't have a lot of time.
Definitely.
So I do have one last curious thing I want to ask about, which is traveling hacks.
Yes.
You did mention it briefly. So for me personally, it's compression socks, it's noise canceling headphones, and it's my gaming device. What are yours?
What things I take with me?
Yeah, for the plane.
And is it like a big bag you take or like small?
No, I take a backpack, but the things that I always take with me when I'm traveling is my laptop, of course my phone, and basically those two with my passport. But my laptop is because I prefer to back up my like footage or pictures, just in case the phone gets damaged or stolen or something. At least I have something. And sometimes, not always, I like to make my bookings through my phone. Sometimes I prefer using the laptop. It's more easy and convenient
Yeah.
to use for booking stuff or doing research.
Yeah, for me personally, because I do have, inside the plane, I do use a lot of hacks. So, but it's amazing that you just go and walk into the airplane and you can, find yourself in it.
Yes, I sleep in the plane, so
Yeah.
most of my time on the plane is sleeping.
That's
So I don't need anything.
That's my problem. I can never sleep on airplanes.
No, I think I taught myself to just sleep in the airplane because the thing is when I'm traveling, I'm always using my time wisely. So I sleep less when I'm traveling. So how to compensate my sleep time is during like if it's a car ride, train ride, airplane ride. That's when I utilize that time to sleep. And then during my time in the city, I would be like usually from the morning until very late at night.
Yeah.
Badr Shaib, such a beautiful conversation, very enlightful, and we have learned a lot from you, like since you experience all the world. And I think for those who are curious and they want to know more, I think this episode was more than enough for them.
Yeah, and definitely follow your Instagram because, for someone who loves traveling and traveling journeys, it's a lot of insightful stuff and it's a lot of, motivational stuff as well.
Yes, thank you for hosting me in your podcast.
Yeah, sure, definitely. And we should have another episode with you because I know there's still a lot of stories that we need to cover.
Of course, 195 countries, that's a lot.
A lot, yes. Yeah. So until next time, stay tuned and try to travel as more as you can and enjoy your life. After having this amazing conversation with Badr Shaib, I know a lot of you got motivated to travel around. How about you, Abdullah?
Yeah, I got really motivated. I really enjoyed how he said that the thing about traveling is that it's not expensive, it's how you manage your expenses. And I think a lot of people consider traveling as something that, I gotta have to spend thousands of, money. But no, it's all about how you balance it.
Exactly. Furthermore, it's not only about budget, it's also about like social skills, being a social person. Because sometimes you want to go to a country, but there are some of you who doesn't like to go with their friends.
Yeah.
So you learn how to be sociable and connect very well with others.
Yeah, and I think if there's one message to take from this episode is that, enjoy the company of yourself first and foremost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So until next time, if you want to travel solo, you got amazing tips from Badr Shaib, and see you later in the next episode.